Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Hotel.
First of all, I want to say it's just a pleasure to be here and thank Brother Kevin and Deborah and Deborah for putting this on. Thank you so much. And I really want to ask two questions, but I'll ask them both and answer whichever is.
Zendaya is from California. We have Florida and California.
Oakland in the house, right.
Yeah.
What is the sperm washing? I've heard a lot about this lately, and I have friends that were not able to get pregnant, so they took his sperm and washed it, and then they impregnated her. Mm-hmm. Secondly, there's a lot of talk in the health food stores of melatonin and what its relationship is, and where do they get it from, and how do we use it?
Mm-hmm. Well, melatonin comes from serotonin. Serotonin comes from tyrosine. Tyrosine comes from phenylalanine. Phenylalanine is amino acid. That's the amino acid trail. Phenylalanine, tyrosine, serotonin, melatonin. It's all made by your pineal gland and melanin centers elsewhere in your body. You have other places in your body that makes melanin other than your pineal gland. And primarily, the serotonin lets you know when you're hungry. When your level of serotonin drops down, you'll want something to eat. And you can't stabilize your serotonin without melatonin, which is made at night, so you have to get proper sleep to get your melatonin to stabilize your serotonin. And then you can't stabilize your melatonin unless you get proper sunlight stimulation to your eyes by looking off direction from the sun in the morning, getting sunlight stimulation in your eyes. You can tell when you're not getting proper stimulation of your pineal gland and the melatonin and serotonin if you start developing white spots on your skin. You're running a serotonin and melatonin deficiency, which you can measure by your blood pressure. If you take it when you're sitting down and then take it when you're standing up and the numbers increase, you have a melanin insufficiency. If you take your blood pressure sitting down and stand up and the numbers decrease, you have a melanin insufficiency and deficiency. Well, you just have a shortage of melanin. All I'm trying to say is you take your blood pressure as 120/80 while you're sitting, then you stand up as 130/90, you have a melanin insufficiency. So you have to be able to gauge how your melanin is going. Of course, all of us have had these melanin tests because we're full of melanin. We go to doctors and they know we're melanin dominant, so they test our melanin. So if they're not doing that, then more than likely they're not helping you too much. What they're doing there is trying to demelanize the sperm, which they call a wash. If they take some of the melanin identity from it, or add more melanin to it, it's more susceptible to do things that they want. If you take some of the melanin, alter it in some way, you can direct the sperm easier. But if it has the melanin, it's going to say, hey, I'm too sick to impregnate somebody. That's what the melanin's going to say. I'm just too sick to do this. And it won't do that. But they have to take away that melanin in some way, so the melanin say, well, hell, it doesn't matter. I'm confused now. And it just impregnate anybody, and we call that a wash. But actually, it's alteration of melanin. All drugs and systems of radiation therapy, chemotherapy, it has to work on the melanin. There's no getting around it. Just like your microwave ovens, which was banned in 1945, invented under Hitler, Nazi Germany. They banned it. It was too dangerous. They said. Invented it as a weapon, accidentally cooked somebody. They said, oh, well, we can use it to cook food.
Yes, brother. My question is on antioxidants. I think there's a big thing going on about antioxidants and how you use them. And there are a lot of antioxidants that are coming out. Could you speak on that if it's needed as a supplementary to your diet? And if so, what natural forms do you have? My second question is on the smoking of marijuana. Does that affect you in a negative way or a positive way? Is it healing or not a healing type of thing?
Okay. I'm only going to talk 5 minutes more long, but see, that's his question. So his question's answer may take longer. So don't blame it on me, okay? All right. So antioxidant is a theory based on a free radical theory. The antioxidants are vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, and selenium. And they're all based on a theory, which is a political and social statement of a scientist. It has nothing to do with science. It's all social here. So what we're trying to do is increase the ability of the body, of the cells to carry more oxygen. And they do that with something antioxidant, like they have antibiotic. The term itself says anti-life. So in order to save your life, you take an antibiotic. Right, okay. If you want to save your oxygen, why take an antioxidant? That's because we're dealing with these Europeans. It's wacky. So what we're trying to do is stabilize the oxygen of the cells in some way. And to do that, we have to nourish the cells properly. Fresh fruits and vegetables as much as possible, whole grains as much as possible, deep breathing, and water as much as possible. That helps regenerate the cells and helps the cells to carry more oxygen. Once you reduce the oxygen supply by 6% by definition, when we're looking at antioxidants and free radicals, we're looking at the behavior of a cell. If a cell behaves this way, we say it's a mineral. But if it behaves in a vital way, we say it's a vital mineral, which you call a vitamin. All we're looking at is behavior. If it does this, we call it a cell. If it does that, we call it a bacteria. But if it does this, we call it a parasite. It's just behavior. The basic entity is still a cell. If you do this, we call you a student. If you do that, we call you a thief. You're still the same person. We're looking at the same thing. We're just looking at a different behavior. When you're looking at behavior, you're in the area of social science. That's why I told you science is political and social, because you're looking at this thing through the eyes of someone. And to see, you have to have a culture, or else you don't know what you're looking at. And to hear, you have to have a culture, or else you do not know what you're hearing. Without a culture, Chinese would not like Chinese music. You have to have a culture to like music. You have to have a culture. You see through the eyes of your culture, and you see through your mother, because your mother teaches you how to see and how to hear. And if you're not bonded to your mother, you're not bonded to your culture, so it's impossible for you to be bonded to yourself. In other words, the breast is not something that brothers are supposed to nurse on when they're 30 years old. But in any case, I'm not going to go that way. So what we're looking at now is a chemical. Marijuana as a plant, making a tea is fine. Make a tea out of it, drink it, it's a good sedative, good for asthma, respiratory kind of things, great. Once you put a match to it, it's a chemical. You're totally different ballgame now. You put a match to it, you have made a chemical because you isolated and concentrated the ingredients. The chemicals in marijuana now are just as toxic as tobacco. They cause the same illness as tobacco. It's so hybrid, hormones, pesticides, herbicides. Once you put a match to it, it's a chemical, and it's going to cause you to have problems with your sperm. It causes it to move a little slow, especially the male sperm, which is supposed to move fast. The female sperm moves slower because it has two brains and it's two heads, so it kind of moves slower. It slows down the male sperm. But we've been orientated kind of wrong because the female just finds whether a person's a boy or a girl. The female sperm, which we call the egg, controls the body from the waist down. Females determine girl or boy. Male just determines character. But when you study European science, you're going to get the whole thing backwards, because the Europeans, they are ass backwards, if they can find that flat ass. But I'm not going to get into that. That may have been my 5 minutes. I got 30 seconds. Go ahead. Yeah.
I have a 3-part question, but since I just got one.
No, man. No, man.
Could it be said that processed foods and pharmaceutical drugs are devised to suppress the female energy in the male and to increase the male energy so that he won't be able to cross over to the psychic power of his being?
Well, processed food is denatured food, and it's a matter of spiritual warfare anyway. That's what it is. Science is spirituality. We just use another language. And the whole attack is on spirituality of African people. There is a deliberate attack on the womb of African women. The whole attack is on the womb. It's a spiritual warfare, and it's always been that way. We just don't see it that way. That's how it started, and that's how it's going to end. Thank you. You're going to unwire me. You want both of them? I apologize for the inconvenience. No, that's fine. I'm used to